Well, this came out of nowhere. This may come as a surprise, but after Pokemon, Kirby is my favorite Nintendo franchise as well as my favorite Nintendo character. So when the latest game in the series, Planet Robobot, was announced, I planned on getting it day one. Now, when it comes to sketchy impressions for video games, I prefer to wait until after I've finished at least 75% of the game before I consider doing a video on it. But since this is a Kirby game, getting that done wasn't that hard anyway. So let's take a look at what the little pink demon brings to the table in this entry. I doubt that anyone plays a Kirby game for the story, so I'm just gonna let you guys know right now, this video is gonna have spoilers. With that said, most Kirby games revolve around some kind of gimmicky threat coming to Dreamland, and Kirby, of course, has to stop it. The flavor for this week is robots, as a giant spaceship full of them invades and mechanizes planet Popstar in the name of Haltman Works, a robotic conglomerate. When the robots completely take over and even kidnap King DDD and Meta Knight, Kirby steps in to save the day, armed with a mech suit that he stole from the robots, cause he's a thug like that. As I made it from world to world, I noticed that the amount of mechanization gradually increases. It's subtle at first, but when you play a level in, say, Area 5 and then revisit a level in Area 1, you'll find a noticeable difference in how much the robots have taken over. I can't really say that the game gets progressively darker as you play because it maintains a relatively cheery tone throughout, but there's definitely an increase in tension. And in that regard, this has gotta be my favorite Kirby story. At first glance, Planet Robobot seems very similar to Kirby's last 3DS entry, Triple Deluxe. You traverse the levels as the Pink Demon, switching between two planes, foreground and background. Thankfully, this game adds new copy abilities to mix things up, as well as the main selling point of the game, the mech suit. The suit is basically a big, bulky version of Kirby. Instead of inhaling enemies to absorb their powers, you scan them, and the suit has around 13 of its own copy abilities. The game does a good job of having an even mix between regular Kirby gameplay and mech suit gameplay, and there are even levels where you have to jump in and out of different suits to solve puzzles and beat levels. In the grand scheme of things, Planet Robobot is your standard platformer fare. You play through 6 different areas with 5 to 6 levels each, and a 7th area which acts as the final boss. You got your grass area, your city area, your water area, etc, etc. Each level has 3 items called code cubes hidden somewhere inside. You don't have to collect all of them, but you do need a certain amount in order to fight the boss. And if you do collect all of the code cubes in an area, you'll unlock a hidden level. I really like the concept of this feature, as it encourages players to experiment with Kirby's different copy abilities in order to progress, but I don't think it was used in the best way. With each area you go through, the number of code cubes required to fight the boss increases by 1. Area 3 requires 5 cubes, Area 4 requires 6, and so on. But I think that the requirement, as well as the increase between worlds, is too low. Area 1 only asks for 3 cubes in order to fight the boss, and there are 4 levels in that area, so you could collect 1 cube from the first 3 worlds and not even bother looking for any cubes in level 4. Kirby games were never known for being super challenging. Hell, in Epic Yarn you can't even die. But if the game was gonna have this kind of system in place, they could have used it to have the levels test you at least a little bit, or at least have a hard mode so that either the levels are more difficult or the cube requirement increases. Then again, while I do stand by this criticism, I can't be too hard on the game for it. These days, Kirby is pretty much the antithesis of Dark Souls. It's less about harshly challenging and punishing players and more about showing them a fun time with bright, colorful characters and landscapes. But there's one thing that Kirby games do have in common with Dark Souls: some kick-ass boss fights. Kirby bosses have been some of the most fun fights I've ever had in video games, and Planet Robobot's bosses more than live up to that. A lot of them are great based on concept alone. You have to fight a robotic version of the classic Wispy Woods boss. You have to fight clones made out of DDD's DNA. You have to fight an android soldier that happens to be a possessed Meta Knight. Twice. And to top it all off, the final boss has Kirby taking control of Meta Knight's Halberd starship and fighting a gigantic computer program called Star Dream. That is how you do a final boss. Kirby games don't take a lot of time or effort to beat. but the game makes up for it by offering a plethora of modes you can play after clearing the main story. The arena is a boss rush mode where you're allowed to pick any one of Kirby's copy abilities and use it to fight each boss one after the other, with little health boosts in between. Meta Nightmare Returns is a pseudo time attack mode where you have to clear each area of the main campaign as fast as you can while playing as Meta Knight, in case the name of the mode didn't already give you a hint. Clearing both of these modes gives you access to the True Arena, which is basically the regular arena on steroids. The bosses in the True Arena are enhanced versions of the regular bosses, with different attack patterns and more powerful strikes, and the amount of health that you get in between battles decreases dramatically. There are also mini-game modes like Team Kirby Clash and Kirby 3D Rumble, so there's a lot to keep you occupied outside of the main story. You can always count on a Kirby game to do two things: look good and sound good, and this entry doesn't disappoint in that regard. While it's built on the same graphics engine as Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot takes much better advantage of it. The different camera angles help to make the game feel more like an adventure, and some levels start with a little intro scene showing you the area. The 3D is also used really well here, especially in the later levels, and it actually encouraged me to turn my 3D on, which I rarely ever do with my 3DS. There's also some great music tracks in this game, and once you clear Meta Nightmare Returns, you unlock the jukebox, where you can listen to any of the tracks at your leisure. My one gripe with this feature is that all the tracks are indicated by numbers and numbers only, so you have to skim through each track to find the one you want and remember what number it is. Compared to the last Kirby game I played, where all the tracks are listed by name and you can even make a favorites list, this is kind of a downgrade. Kirby Planet Robobot is more than a worthy addition to the franchise. While the main campaign is short and not as challenging as other entries like the Rainbow Curse, the levels and boss fights are fun, and between the hidden levels and extra game modes, there's a substantial amount of replay value that'll keep you coming back for a while. If you're a Kirby fan, or if you're looking for a relaxing handheld platformer to kill time with, I'd recommend it, and I'm looking forward to what Kirby's next adventure will be. So what do you think of Kirby Planet Robobot? Swarm that comment section below or bug me on social media, and consider supporting me through Patreon or PayPal art commissions. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.